Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to be trying to photograph dragonflies in flight again, but this time I'm going to be using the bird subject detect on my OM1 and see if it works. So I'm going to start off with a big thank you to all of you that have watched my recent videos. I've now passed 1,000 subscribers and you know they're getting lots of views, so thank you very much for that. And also a big thank you to all of you that have commented. So one of the suggestions that's come up a few times, especially from other Olympus users, or should I say OM Systems users I suppose, is to use the bird subject detect autofocus mode. So I'm going to head out into my local reserve, try and find some dragonflies in flight. The last 2 times I've come here, of course, it's clouded over, so fingers crossed, bright blue sky. There is a band of cloud over there, but the forecast is to be a lot sunnier than the last 2 times I was here, so fingers crossed I'll do alright with the weather. So in my previous videos, when I've been photographing dragonflies in flight, I've been relying on manual focus, but I'm going to try out the bird subject detect and see if that works better. So here's a quick explanation of exactly what that is.
Bird subject detect, sometimes referred to as bird AI or bird AI autofocus, is an option under the autofocus menu. In this mode, the autofocus recognises the shape of a bird and indicates this by putting a white box around it that you can see in the viewfinder or on the screen, as you can see here. It also recognises a head when it can detect it, and focuses on that when you press down the shutter or back button to focus, indicating this fact with the box turning green. It works great on birds, but I was going to find out if it worked on dragonflies, especially in flight. After a 5-minute check at the small pond, I headed to the main lake.
Well, I'm down by the lake. Conditions are absolutely perfect. It's lovely and sunny, very little wind. I've seen a few dragonflies flying around away from the lake, so hopefully they'll come here soon. Well, the activity's picking up. The lesser emperor dragonflies flying around now, and it did actually lock on the bird autofocus. I didn't have time to take a shot though, and there's one flying past again now, so I'm going to get back to it.
Not the best photos, as it was too distant, but the bird subject detect autofocus recognised the dragonfly as a subject.
Well, the dragonflies aren't playing ball too well, but this damselfly has just started to emerge in front of me, so that's pretty cool. So I've done a little time lapse.
I missed the very start of the emergence, but I set up this time lapse to run on the GH6 while I carried on trying to photograph the dragonflies. To a couple points though, I was a bit worried it was going to be eaten by this carp, but I did make it, only taking off after 1 too many harassments from this pond skater.
A female emperor just egg-laid in front of me, and as it flew around and sort of did that half hovering while it's looking for somewhere to lay, the camera did lock on with the bird subject recognition, so fingers crossed I'll get some better shots as well.
This is the sequence of shots. After taking a few frames to lock on, it's in focus for the next 20 odd shots. A quick wobble for a few frames as I tracked it, then in focus for another 20, until it drifted out of the focus area. Those shots were cropped. Here's an uncropped frame from the sequence, and a fully edited shot. Nothing amazing, but not a bad start. It also managed to track this quite distant lesser emperor as it banked, which was good to see, but it was too distant for a good shot.
I've just got a nasty sting from a European fire ant, which is somewhat uncomfortable, but on the upside, a commendata was hovering in front of me, and the autofocus locked on beautifully. Nice white square around the dragonfly, and I've got some nice shots.
This is 71 shots, all in focus, taken in 3 bursts of me pressing the shutter. Got some keepers, even if it was a bit small in the frame. It didn't do as well locking onto this tandem pair that were egg laying though. A bit hit and miss, but they were a bit distant.
Well, I can confirm the bird recognition AI autofocus mode does work on dragonflies. Got lots of commendata photos, got some okay-ish ones of the lesser emperors. They're really not playing ball today, just flying past at high speed, so not got much there. I'm now going to head to the pond to see if I can find some southern migrant or migrant hawkers, which tend to hover more and should be more cooperative. So let's go and see what I can find. One somewhat amusing problem I did have was if I was trying to track a dragonfly and a coot or something swam into the background, it locked straight onto it, so at least we know the bird recognition part works. After all, I'm asking the camera to do something it's not been designed to do.
There were some common darters at the small pond. I had to switch to manual focus to get this shot though. Subject Detect Autofocus only just managed to get them egg-laying in flight, although it was between some reeds to be fair, and it completely failed to lock onto this perched darter. A southern migrant hawker appeared, and it was hovering quite well, pretty close, and I chickened out using the bird AI mode to start with, switching to my old method of using manual focus, slightly shifting the focus back and forth while firing off bursts of photos so I get some in focus while it's hovering. The Dragonfly was filling my frame, and at some times it was so close I was struggling to keep it in the frame, so I've got some cropped close-ups as well. Some good shots, but better was to come. So with some good shots in the bag, it was time to give the bird Subject Detect Autofocus a go. The following sequences are all uncropped and only slightly tweaked. On the first decent opportunity, it locked on nicely, and I got a sequence of 118 shots, almost all in focus. The second burst locked focus, but it focused on the tips of the nearest wings. Third burst was very close, but not quite in focus on the body, and the fourth one, well, you can see. There are of course plenty of other times I didn't take any shots because it just didn't focus at all, especially when it's in front of the reeds. I got some keepers though.
I've been trying out the bird subject autofocus, and it's been mixed results, I'll be honest. When it's hovering in front of the reeds, it really can struggle, and it's not even putting a white box around it when it does autofocus a lot of the time. Against the sky, a bit more promising, but I've got my best shots by using the old manual focus technique.
It seemed to do well with these medium distance shots, with it big enough in the frame to be detected, but not too close. Here's a couple of keepers from those two sequences. Nearer the minimum focus distance, the bird Subject Detect did struggle to lock on and stay focused a few times, but on this one opportunity, it locked on, the head was in focus, and I got a good sequence of shots, this being the pick of them. At one point, the Dragonfly hovered really close in, head on to me, and I thought that autofocus failed to get it. But it did get a few shots in focus, this being the best of the bunch.
After a productive time at the pond, I've come to the conclusion that for sort of medium distance shots, it's really quite good, the bird autofocus. It just seems to lock onto them. Sometimes it's not actually locking on in the sense of forming the box around it and truly recognising the subject, but it is still autofocusing, so it's sort of like I've got the backup of the normal autofocus. Yeah, so it does seem to work so far, but I'm going to head back to the lake and see if I can get these lesser emperors.
Unfortunately, all I got of the lesser emperor was this distant shot.
Well, the lake wasn't very productive, so I've come back to the pond. The southern migrant hawker male has been flying around beautifully, got lots of shots of it hovering. The bird autofocus is working okay.
I encountered the issue of it focusing on the wingtips a few more times. Other times it absolutely nailed it. But it's the end result that counts, and I got some nice shots. I'll show some of them now, and as we scroll through, give some thought on using the bird Subject Detect Autofocus mode to photograph dragonflies. It usually did well tracking the subject when it was hovering, but if it moved slightly away from the camera, it sometimes drifted out of focus and the camera didn't adjust for it. I did find using my focus limiter set to less than 4 meters helped when it was in front of the reeds. I've come to the conclusion as well that using the bird Subject Detect Autofocus had a higher hit rate than me using manual focus, though I was a bit out of practice, to be fair. It doesn't work so well for dragonflies that are perched, but I'll certainly be using it for dragonflies in flight in future. And of course, the biggest drawback is that when it hovers, and 90% of them are in focus, and you're shooting at 50 frames per second, that's a heck of a lot of photos to edit at the end of the day. 7,000 shots on this day in the end, though that's a headache that's good to have.
Well, I just got the macro lens out, the 90mm OM macro that is, to get a perch shot. And then the southern migrant hawker started hovering around my head, so I've got a load of shots in flight with the 90mm. Again with the bird autofocus.
And here are the shots, some of the best dragonfly photos I've taken, I reckon. Now I probably could have got away with dropping the ISO a bit on these, especially this perched shot. But sometimes you need to focus on taking that photographic opportunity rather than optimising your settings.
So I've taken 6,000 shots. I've come away from that pond because I keep taking too many photos. I've come back to the lake, to the one spot that's got the sun behind me, and the occasional lesser emperor is flying past. So I'm trying it with the bird autofocus mode engaged and trying to blast at them as they fly past. Let's see what I can get.
I had a handful of chances of the male lesser emperor as he whizzed by, and did manage to get one sequence with the best shot of a lesser emperor from the day. That wasn't particularly great.
But I guess you want to know what my verdict is on this bird autofocus mode. Well, it works. To summarise and put it simply, it doesn't work best in all scenarios. It doesn't like subjects when they're sat still. It did lock onto the eyes a couple of times when the southern migrant hawker sat down, but didn't lock on at all to the common darters, or when they were settled anyway. Yeah, it doesn't like subjects that are too far away. It doesn't like them when they're too close. But I definitely got more keepers when the dragonflies were flying in front of me, towards me and across my field of view. So yeah, it's definitely one to try if you have an OM1 and you want to photograph dragonflies in flight.
My last shots of the day were of this small red-eyed damselfly.
Well, I'm heading home now. The dragonfly activity is pretty much finished, and I've got to catch my train. So I hope you found that useful. Do please give it a like, and if you like wildlife photography, filmmaking, dragonflies, do just give us a subscribe. And that's it from me in this video. See you in the next one.